Well, hey, everybody. My name is Eric Waldrop with Your Next Step Leadership Coaching, and we are here today to talk about how organization can help you as a leader to be more effective and efficient, productive, and just whatever you are dealing with. I want to introduce to you my friend Amanda DiGaspari. Amanda, thank you for being here.
Of course, happy to be here.
Yes, yes. All right. Um, Obviously, we're going to get into organization in just a little bit because I think you obviously have incredible skills in that area. But before we do all that kind of stuff, tell us a little bit about you and your role at your company and all the fun stuff that you do.
Yeah, so as Eric said, my name is Amanda DiGaspari. I work for a company called New. We're an inbound marketing agency in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I've actually been working from home for quite some time now. I started working from home after I had our little girl in November last year. And then that turned into 2020 where everyone started working from home. So organization is of utmost importance, even more so than usual, I think, these days.
Yes.
But my role in the company is the VP of Client Strategy. And what that means is I work with our account strategists and clients to make sure that from the sales process through delivery, everything runs smoothly and our clients' goals are being met at every level. So that's just high level picture of what I do every day.
That's awesome. Sounds very sophisticated with all those words that you use. So,
Yeah.
so what's really cool and what you guys may not know. So Amanda and I have been working together probably for maybe the last couple of years, maybe. I've been doing some leadership coaching for her and some other folks in her company, but we just built a friendship, and by getting to know her and talking with her about some of the challenges that she's had and worked through together, I've learned that the fact that she is so good at organization and knows so much about this topic that I've asked her to kind of jump in here and give us some wisdom and some practices that we can incorporate into our leadership. So, Amanda, just to get started off, why is it important for leaders to be organized in their work?
Ooh, it's a good question. I think probably the most obvious answer to that is that it helps us to manage projects and it helps us prioritize so that we're
Hmm.
focusing on what's most important, not just
Hmm.
whatever's in front of us.
Yeah.
But more so than that, I think it also helps us to establish stronger relationships with our team because it helps you to make sure that you're replying to emails or getting to meetings on
Yeah.
time and staying connected with people in a meaningful way and being proactive about that.
Hmm.
It also helps us to delegate much
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, just I guess personally, I think organization as a whole, structure as a whole, helps me to have a home base to come back to.
Mm.
So I have flexibility more so than when I don't have structure, which
Yeah.
seems contradictory.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I have something to come back to, when I know what my routine is, what I know what my how to set my priorities and organize my day, it just makes when things get thrown at you even easier to get back to
Right.
structure and getting back to productivity because I do have organization in place.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the phrase you used, home base, right
Mhm.
there. Talk a little bit about what you mean by that.
Yeah, so this definitely applies in the workplace, but it applies, I think, everywhere in your life. And I found that especially after having a baby,
Mm.
creating a
Yeah.
structure and a schedule and a routine, it can be perceived sometimes as being rigid or maybe too structured in some ways. But I see it as a very freeing thing. I see
Hmm.
it as knowing that I have this routine, knowing that typically this is when I do these things and this is what happens next and this is what happens after that. It allows for me to have more freedom in my day for
Right.
when anything happens, whether
Yeah.
it's with a baby or with work or when something else gets thrown at your on your plate. Um, this is temporary and this is how I can work it into my everyday routine.
Yeah. So if I'm understanding you correctly, that home base, what you're referring to is kind of your schedule that you've really
Right.
set for yourself. Okay.
Yep. Schedule
Gotcha.
routines and yeah, just your normal everyday.
Gotcha. So, what, in your opinion, what makes someone organized? Like, is it like, do we have to be born this way? Can we learn it? What's your thoughts on that?
I I definitely think some people are more inclined to being organized or
Hmm.
a structured person, and some people are maybe born being a little bit more disorganized.
Right.
But I don't think one is better or worse than the other.
Yeah.
I think some signs of an organized person is that they're able to set their priorities,
Right.
that they're able to stay on schedule and meet deadlines.
Yeah.
Um, I know that they're usually detail oriented, and I know that sometimes, myself included, they can have some perfectionist tendencies, which can get in the way of of progress in any way.
Yeah.
But there's just like anything else in life, there's extremes, and then
Yeah.
there's kind of the average. But
Yeah. I want to come back to something you said about helping us hit deadlines because I think that's so important in our productivity of what we're trying to do. But from a personal perspective, like when did you notice in your life that you had this skill set or this ability to organize your life, or at least try to, organize your life and that kind of thing? Like, when did you first notice that?
yeah, I think as I look back on my life, I know that I have always kind of been an organized type of person. But I think just like a lot of other things in life, when you have no choice but to be organized and get it done, it kind of forces your hand in that way. And
Yeah.
it helped me discover that maybe this is a gift that I have that I
Yeah.
can really grow and lean on. For me, that was when we made the shift as a web design company to a inbound agency, so marketing type of
Hmm.
things. So we went from being a very project-based company to having retainers and building client relationships, and I really led the way with that. And when you make big changes in companies like that, there's a lot to learn. And
Right.
we had a lot of clients at first, and I was managing all of them, like 16, 20 clients maybe at one time,
Wow.
and trying to figure out a way, okay, well, how do we keep doing what we were doing, but kind of ease out of the project based side of things? But
Yeah.
still, how do I figure out how to manage this new thing that we're doing?
Yeah.
But more importantly, how do I create scalable systems
Yeah.
so that I'm not the only one that has to do this
Right.
forever.
Right.
Um, so that kind of shed a light on my love for spreadsheets a little bit, my love for to-do lists. um,
Yes.
and it helped me to just show the next generation of account strategists, as we call them here in the
Yeah.
company. How can we do this in an efficient and productive way that is repeatable and
Right.
scalable?
Yeah.
That's really, I guess, where my beginnings of this
Yeah.
started.
Yeah. Absolutely. So when you felt like you needed to grow in that area, did you reach out any resources, or did you talk to any people, or did you just kind of yourself kind of think through, okay, what do I need in the moment to kind of give me that home base where I can create some structure to help me be more efficient? Like, what did you do in that moment?
Yeah, that's yes, all of the above. I definitely have that interior. I'm very intrinsically motivated.
Yeah.
I personally like to take a step back and look at everything that's on my plate and try to organize things. When I started all of this, I was definitely a pen to paper
Yeah.
person. I needed to have something that I could physically write a
Oh,
list on.
wow.
I
Yeah.
love calendars and planners and pens to this
Yeah.
day. I love them. Uh, but I found,
Different colored like highlighters and mark. Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
oh, the smell of a new book. And, oh gosh. Anyway,
Yeah.
through all this, I realized that maybe that wasn't the most efficient way that I could organize my time.
Yeah.
So I did a little digging into different tools that I could use, and definitely researched. Google is the
Yeah.
world's greatest thing
Yeah.
ever.
Yes.
How are
Yes.
other people doing this? How can I take
Yeah.
little things from here and little things from
Right.
here that I think could work for us
Right.
and apply them? Yeah.
So what is one hack that you use that kind of helps you feel and be organized?
One. If I had to narrow it down to one, especially recently, I would say the Todoist app. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. when I was just talking about how I used to
I'm
write
gonna write
everything
that
down.
down here.
Yeah, see, physically, yeah. When I would write down my lists, I would just take a step back and look at it and then write little numbers next to them.
Hmm.
1 being highest priority, 3 being lowest priority, and
Hmm.
then I would rewrite my lists
Yeah, yeah, right.
1 to 3,
Yeah.
prioritizing and getting to cross those off. But
Hmm.
I found Todoist, which is a mobile app and a desktop app and an internet app,
Yeah.
so it's accessible anywhere. And of course, there's keyboard shortcuts to make it even more simplified. But you just write down your list on this Todoist app, and you can physically rearrange the list. So I'm not rewriting my lists all the time.
Oh, that's good.
Um, and I can mark them as P1 or P2 or P3 for the priority,
Yeah.
organize them by client, things that pen and paper don't quite allow you to do.
Don't quite well,
Yeah.
and I love how you've adjusted with technology and
Yeah.
you're and
Yeah.
learning to do that. But what I love that you just said just now is the topic of priority management, right?
Right.
Because not everything that we do is of the same weight and gravity to our organization, and we need to have that ability to go, okay, this is a P1,
Mhm.
and this is a P3. Like if I'm gonna, you know today, if I'm choosing which I need to focus on that. So I
Yeah.
love the ability to be able to prioritize your stuff.
Yeah, that was actually something that you helped me out with a lot. I think that I would do my best with that,
Hmm.
but you introduced me to the Eisenhower Matrix, which is the urgent important matrix.
Hmm.
So if something is urgent and important, that's a P1 for sure. I need to knock that
Yeah,
out today, ASAP.
yeah,
But if it's important but not urgent, maybe that can take a backseat, or maybe it's a P2. If it's not important and it's not urgent, then maybe that's something I could even just delegate or
yeah,
put off for a little while.
yeah.
That Eisenhower matrix is a huge, huge thing for me.
Well, it's such a wonderful filter to think through, projects, right?
Mhm.
To help you kind of get that true picture of, okay, is this, important, urgent, and all that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah,
And for
that's
those of
good.
us that like to do a lot of the things themselves, the
Yeah,
people that are perfectionists, it kind of takes the weight off of
right.
the responsibility of having to choose what you do focus on and what you
Yeah,
don't focus on. It's just kind of like out of your hands. It's falling into this not
yeah,
important, not urgent.
yeah.
Let's find someone else to do it.
And that's a great thing to say. Hey, if you guys are listening, you've never heard of the Eisenhower Matrix, Google that, and it's very simple. It's just a simple matrix essentially that helps you make decisions on the tasks that you're responsible for, and helps you really kind of rate them of on their priority. So
Mhm.
yeah, check that out. I think that can be helpful. Thanks for mentioning that.
Mhm.
So with so much remote officing now, obviously you're doing that, you're loving that. What would you say to someone who constantly feels a little distracted and they can't focus in their office? Like, where would you tell them to start?
Yeah, a huge thing for me. I know for a little bit at the beginning of all of this COVID stuff, I like to stay in my pajamas for quite some time. And I'm telling you, now that I'm committed to getting dressed every day, it makes a difference, right? It helps you stay focused. And
Yes.
I don't know, your mindset changes a little bit when you're not in your relaxed clothes, right?
So get dressed, first
Get
of all.
dressed, take a shower in the morning and get dressed. It helps.
Yeah, that's
But
funny.
aside from that, and kind of in the same line of things, just I think establishing a routine and having set work hours every
Yeah,
single day, when you know that you're responsible for answering to people and
yeah,
answering your emails between these hours,
yeah.
you know what you can focus on. And then after those hours, back to family time, back to, you know,
Right.
I'm not
So
answering emails.
yeah, so establishing set work hours. What calendaring system do you use to keep you organized?
Yeah, so Todoist is a little bit of that too.
Yeah,
It has a built-in calendar with it. So, for example, if I want to remind myself that I want to follow up with Eric on Thursday, I can run to Todoist and say, on Thursday, follow up with Eric about this. And it will automatically file that onto my Thursday list. But we also, as a company, use Google Calendar too.
okay, gotcha. Does Todoist does it does it link with Google Calendar, or is it kind of separate kind of a thing?
I'm not honestly, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I personally, I like to have it a little bit separate
Okay.
because it's my personal notes and like
Right.
just things that are all over the place.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
just about once a week, I need to even reorganize my Todoist because it can become a lot.
Right. It's time for
Um,
the P1 to P2 to P3
yeah.
kind of. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so all right, so get dressed. Really nail down that routine, set those
Mhm.
working hours. Um, Anything else that helps you stay organized?
Yeah, I think having a dedicated space that's clean
Mm,
and something that you enjoy coming to, and along the same lines of that, on your desktop, closing out of any of your non-work related tasks during your work hours, turning off your phone, or there's apps too, I think now that block social media from
mhm.
being giving you notifications and stuff.
Right.
Basically, if it's not what you need to focus on, it doesn't need to be in front of you.
Right.
And making sure that you create and carve out that space intentionally,
Yeah.
both digitally and physically, it really helps, I
Mm.
think.
One thing that you said that it was easy for you to say and you blew past it, but I want to come back to it is having a space that you want to be in.
Mhm.
Having a space that you walk into that room and you go, I,
Yeah.
I feel relaxed, I feel creative, I feel inspired, I feel like I want to work in this room, not like it's a broom closet and everybody's everybody, it's the room with all the storage that that fits all the stuff we don't have place for in our house, kind of a thing,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it there a little bit too.
Yeah.
I think overall, not just as it relates to our office, our work type of thing, just in life, I have found personally that less in every level is
Mm,
oftentimes a lot more.
yeah.
So we've actually worked a lot in this last year to look at what we have, look at
Yeah.
those storage areas. Do we
Yeah.
use this? Have I used this in the past year?
Yeah.
Am I going to need this in the next 6 months? Is this something that I need to have on hand at all
Yeah.
times? If
Yeah.
not, we've hauled it out. We've really cleaned things up and it helps, I don't know, it helps you breathe mentally, physically, having that space.
Mm,
So I'm
that's
definitely a proponent of less.
really minimizing and looking at everything that you have and going, do we need to take this to Goodwill
Yes.
or
Yeah.
have that big yard sale?
Facebook Marketplace. Yeah.
Yeah, Facebook Marketplace. Yes, yes, absolutely. So, what if you live with a messy person?
You have to move out. No,
I love it.
not really. Okay. No, that's not
Yeah,
true. You don't
yeah,
have to move out.
yeah,
I think that it takes work from both sides. If you
yeah,
are the quote clean person and the person you live with is quote the messy person, I think it takes work from both sides.
yeah,
So just as disorganization seems to come naturally to them and
yeah,
organization comes naturally to you, just have to be empathetic and
yeah,
understand that maybe they aren't intentionally
yeah,
forgetting to put their clothes from the floor into the laundry hamper. They
yeah,
just don't even think about it.
right.
So I think working with them and putting systems in place that um, are kind of just second nature to both of you. So
Mhm.
the laundry example, if the laundry hamper's in the bathroom, but they get changed next to their dresser in the bedroom, maybe move the hamper next to their dresser. It's a
Right,
visual reminder. Let's put the clothes in the hamper. It
right.
doesn't hurt anybody to have it in a different place.
Yeah,
It just kind of helps with that. But also accept the fact that maybe they need a decluttered space. Maybe they need an office or a space where they can just have it be their own and feel no pressure
yeah.
to be cleaned up type of
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. I'm so glad you spoke to that because for me, and tell me your opinion on this, but when I feel disorganized and I feel like I'm in a cluttered environment, it's like I've got 25 tabs open on my computer and I can't focus. And so it's very I mean, we do so much brain work, right? And all with we're all knowledge workers now, right? So it's when we come into environments that just seem cluttered and disorganized and thought wasn't given, for me personally, it's like my brain knows that I'm in a space that is disorganized and cluttered, and I'm thinking it's taken like brain bandwidth of how to clean this room, and I'm not even aware of it, right? And
Yep.
it's and talk to me about like what just that disorganization and clutter just kind of can just gunk up the system there.
I am fully 100% there with you.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. But
Yeah.
I think that when you take the time to curate your space to be filled with things that you love and things that you look forward to being around, it helps on every level. And now that we're working remotely, a lot of us anyway, that transcends, I think, to the family level too. When your kids are in a space that's just overwhelmed with toys and things are all over the
Right.
place, they can't play is a
Right.
child's work, right?
Right.
So they can't work effectively if they've got a mess too. So it kind of is a full household
Yeah.
effort to make sure that
Yeah.
every room has a place where everything can live, and just making sure that less is there. If it doesn't need to be
Yeah.
there, don't have it.
It's the old less is more thing, right? So
Yeah.
you used a phrase that I want you to explain just a little bit more. You said curate your space. What does it mean to curate your space?
Yeah, I another like side hobby, I guess, of mine. I love home interior everything.
Mhm.
So when we bought this house, we've completely every floor, ceiling, paint, wall has been painted.
Wow,
Everything is just
that's
different, right?
awesome.
And we love doing that kind of thing. And I know that that's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea,
Hmm.
but I think everyone can benefit from
Yeah.
just hand picking and being intentional
Right.
about what is in their space. If it doesn't bring you joy, as Marie Kondo would say, right?
Right.
Does
Right.
it spark joy?
Absolutely. Yes.
It then you don't need to have it
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of having, I don't know, a million of these specific types of toys, maybe we weed it out into the few favorites, or you know,
Hmm.
curating your space means that you're being intentional with what you choose to have around you, because you're in control of your environment. And why would you have things around you that
That's
you
good.
don't love? So
Yeah, that's so good. So, what would you say to somebody who wants a curated space, not curated space, a curated space, but they don't have that skill set intrinsically to be able to just know what color looks good in a home and know what kind of what would you advise them to do?
I don't think it necessarily needs to be this color looks great with this color even. I think just start with, do I love this? Do
Yeah,
do I absolutely love this? And is this something that I would miss if it weren't here? If
yeah,
the answer is no, Facebook Marketplace,
right,
Goodwill,
yeah,
let's figure out a new home for it,
yeah,
because someone else might love that.
yeah,
So I don't even think you necessarily need to have that, I don't know, that eye or that
hmm,
skill, I guess.
yeah.
I think it just starts there with what you love or what you don't.
Right. That environment is so important. You said something in the very beginning when we got started. You said that being organized helps in the communication with your team.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit more about that, how that's helped you.
Yeah, I think Todoist. I'm coming
Yeah.
back to Todoist.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It really helps, like I mentioned, if I wanted to remember to follow up with someone, or make sure that I don't forget to prep for that meeting so that I don't come into it not prepared. I think all of those things, that putting a system in place to set those reminders so that you're prepared, it helps for your team to understand that you care. So
Hmm.
if it's just a thing that you don't really remember to you, it could be really important and in the forefront of your team members'
Right.
mind.
Right.
And it's a big deal to them. So making sure that you have the systems in place to keep those relationships strong.
What I like about what you said is it's systematized to us,
Right.
but our team doesn't feel it because all they feel is a text or a phone call or an email maybe from us of checking in on them. But the way that we manage it personally is, call Amanda on Thursday at 11 a.m., kind of a
Mhm.
situation. And so we're not thinking about it anymore. It's on our
Right.
calendar. So sometimes people would make the argument, well, it doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't seem genuine if it's like, on your calendar and that kind of thing. Speak to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like a birthday. It's just someone's
Yeah.
birthday. If I don't put it on my calendar, I'm probably gonna forget it's your birthday, because I don't know, my brain just doesn't remember dates like that, right?
Yeah,
But how important is it for, if I care about you, just to send you a quick message that says happy birthday, because I hope you have a great day today.
that's a
There's
great
nothing
example.
impersonal about that, right?
Yeah.
I think that that's just a bigger picture example of
Yeah.
how everything works. And what better way to say that you care about someone than to make sure that a team member, for example, than to make sure that you come to a meeting that they call prepared to talk about it.
Right.
I mean, if I show up and I'm not ready I don't even know what this is about, it's a little bit disrespectful, and it kind of shows that you don't
Exactly.
really care as much as that you could.
Yeah. Your ability to be prepared to talk about whatever that meeting represents communicates effort and care and concern for that team member, right? And if if it's blown, we've all called meetings or we've all showed up to meetings not prepared, and what that communicates is either you forgot or you don't want to be here.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm
yeah.
personally not a person that's great at off the cuff stuff.
Mhm.
Sometimes I I need to just kind of think things through before I have a conversation if I want it to have
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
as much meaning as I want to bring to it.
Right.
Even this call, for example, I like to think through what is it that's important to me. Why
Right.
do I what do I want to bring to the table with
Yeah.
this? And even for people that are great with off the cuff, it if you write down the time and you create the space to become a little bit more prepared to come to a meeting,
Yeah.
there's going to be more depth inevitably. You're
Mhm.
going to have a more productive and effective meeting, I think.
I like the word you use there, depth. There's going to be more depth there because I do work with clients who are who have strengths in spontaneity. They wing a lot of their life because they're good at it,
Yeah.
and they're good at what they do, so they feel like they can just show up and make it happen.
Yep.
And what I hear you saying is, but if you could give a little more thought to your calendar and making sure things are, on that priority to-do list, it communicates that much more and makes those meetings, makes those relationships more effective.
100%. Yep.
Yep, that is really good. Okay. Um, so, is there a resource that you would recommend? It sounds like Todoist is going to be that one, but talk a little bit more about that, or if there's any other resource you would say if somebody is Amanda, if somebody is starting from scratch, like they really they're struggling just to keep a calendar, like what would you tell that particular person, just their next step, no pun intended, but just their
Yeah.
just their
First step.
yeah just that first step of, okay, how can I just go from here to just here to get started being more
Mhm.
organized.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I would recommend Todoist and Slack and other productivity tools that really help. But depending on whatever your strength is, so if you love to read, I would recommend maybe The Power of Habit. I think that's what it's called, The Power of Habit.
Hmm.
It's a book by Charles Duhigg, I think.
Yep, I know
Um,
exactly that book you're talking about.
okay, good. I got it right.
Yep, yep.
I think that book, the name of that book, I couldn't remember if that's what it was, but it does a great job of explaining why we have habits and what if we don't like something, how do we change it, and how does that become a long-term change.
Hmm.
So that if you like books, definitely check that one out. There's one I haven't read yet that I'd love to read that's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People
That's a
that I've heard
classic. Yeah,
also, yeah, a really great one.
yeah.
But I think if you're more like me, maybe that sitting down to read a book kind of, that takes some time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like to listen to podcasts while I'm getting ready in the morning or when I'm on a walk. So Googling any of those podcasts, there's a million podcasts out there about productivity and organization,
Yeah.
and finding one that you really like to tune into, one that's the length that you like it to be, like you like the voice of the person that's talking, that could be a huge game changer for you.
Yeah.
But also, if you were to start today, I would recommend by starting with a decluttering. Just go through one room or one drawer at a time,
Yeah.
and just get rid of the excess. It'll help you focus on what's important.
I'm now very conscious of my environment that I'm
Yeah.
in, right? I'm now very conscious of all this. What I liked what you said, Amanda, about just kind of getting started is uh, what's helped me is YouTubing different types of
YouTube. Yes.
people who are good in various areas, and just experimenting with listening to their messages, their leadership, their teaching, their coaching on various things, and kind of learning through that, through experimentation of, okay, who do I resonate most with when I hear
Exactly.
them talk? Who can I, whose voice can I put up with? Whose teaching style resonates with me.
Yeah.
Some of us need a lot of information, some of us just need to just boil it down to one thing. You recommended a book to me that I bought, that I love, and I want you to talk about it because it has to do with communication.
I know which one.
Yes. Tell everybody about this book and how it can help, especially with, organization too.
So remind me the title of it because I see the blue and white cover and
Yeah,
I know all
yeah.
of the things that I love about it. What was the title again?
So you and I were talking, you and I were having a conversation about communication. You said
Mhm.
it's called Simply Said.
Simply Said. That's right. Oh, it is a fantastic book and one that I think I listened to on tape.
Wow, you're going
Wow.
back there a little
I
bit.
listened to on tape first. And then I loved it so much. I needed to
Yep,
have a physical copy and highlight it and,
yep.
turn down pages. It is such a practical
Mm,
guide
it
to how do you
is.
write an email that's effective and how do you
Yes.
eliminate maybe some verbiage that's in your vocabulary that
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
it's just from every level of
So
communication,
good.
I think it's hugely important.
Well,
Um,
and I want to brag on you because I have somebody in my organization that it just seemed like every email was 3 paragraphs long. And our staff were coming to me going, I don't know what to do with this email. It's too much information, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I gave him this book, and it has changed the way that he's written emails. Thus, it's changed the way people respond to him. And
yes.
so it's been so helpful in his organization, excuse me, of what he's communicating, that it's been super helpful. So that's been a great resource.
I'm glad you enjoy it as much as I do. I'm glad you've been able to pass it along because that was a game changer for me when I read that a couple of years ago.
Absolutely. Simply Said is the name of
Mhm.
the book. I forget the name of the author, but he talks about how to, make speeches that resonate with people. He talks about emails, conversations, keeping things short, sweet, to the point. It's just fantastic in terms of just all of your communication and communicating as a leader. So I would
Mhm.
highly recommend that. So,
And something that you kind of touched on too is that many leaders, people that are in they're running companies, a lot of the times they're really skilled at being off the cuff and having the big picture thinking
hmm
ability. Like not everybody, that's such a gift. That's
hmm
incredible. And just like anything else, there's pros and cons to a lot of things.
yep,
And I think that honing in on some of your skills in this book does a great job of making it a
yep,
practical takeaway type of thing, but also surrounding yourself with people that might be more organization focused,
yeah,
or it comes more naturally to them.
yeah.
You can help kind of filter out things that way.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Amanda, because when you surround yourself with people who are organized and their brain just processes and thinks that way, people like that, people how like you, how you're wired, really help the leader make progress in those areas where he or she really wants to go. And
Mhm.
and to me, I think it's that humility to be able to say, okay, the vision of the company, this is where we want to go, this is what we want to do,
Yeah.
but it takes people that can kind of create that structure
Mhm.
that can help you make progress, and those people are not a threat to the vision, they're a tool for the vision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But how do we take this incredibly big and awesome idea?
hmm
How do we make it practical? How do
yeah.
we turn it into something that's actually doable? And what does that look? How do we break it down?
hmm
And not everybody thinks in both of those ways.
yes.
So just surrounding yourself with people that maybe can take a concept like that and help you work through the details and the follow through of that can help you identify if it's a really great idea and how to pursue it, or
Yeah.
maybe maybe it wasn't as great as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Here's an alternative. But
So as we kind of round the corner and kind of land the plane here in just a minute, for a leader who is an out loud processor versus somebody who processes internally, what advice would you give to a leader who is first of all, an out loud processor, and how a person who is organized like yourself and has that skill set can help them, and how somebody who may be an internal processor and how somebody like yourself could help him
mhm,
or her?
yeah. So I have firsthand experience with this with my boss, as you know. He is a verbal processor, and that is a skill that I don't have. I
Right.
am very intrinsically driven, and I process internally, introverted for sure. But it helps when you're able to identify that about yourself, to
Hmm.
say, "Hey, I need to verbally process something. Can we just take some time to talk this
Hmm.
through?" And I like to be I can be a sounding board for him, for example.
Hmm.
Just talk it all out. Let me echo back to you what I hear. Is that what you mean? Is this what we want to do with it? Or you just want to vent about something for
Right.
let's give it 5 minutes or 10
Right.
minutes. Just being a sounding board. But if you are the verbal processor and you're working with someone that processes internally, I think just recognizing that they need the space to internally process and maybe circle back on that later.
Hmm.
That for me, that's how I work. So
Yeah.
I know that about myself, and I can say to you, hey, give me the day. Let me
Yeah.
process my thoughts about it
I
while I
need
work
to
out all these
analyze. I need
things.
to think. Yep. Yep.
Right. Let's regroup on this tomorrow,
Yep.
and being okay with that on both sides.
Yeah. Well, and I love what you said about, leaders, if you are a out loud processor, which is kind of my style,
Mhm.
it helps to be able to say on the front end, hey, I'm not making a decision right now.
Right.
I just need some room to just process this idea and be a sounding board for me.
That's
That
huge.
way, all the tension in the room kind of comes down because they know we're not making a decision right now. We're taking this one idea and we're looking at it from all these different angles to see, what am I missing? What do I need to see? What's our blind spot here and all that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
I like how you said about just kind of state the rules up front,
Right.
and organize the conversation that way so that it creates just a better decision on the back end. So,
And vice versa too. If I know that we need to talk about something bigger, I can ask you for some questions or things that we want to talk about beforehand, so that I can process it before the
mhm.
conversation.
Yep.
Happy to talk off cuff about a lot of things. It just helps for internal processors anyway if we know what we're getting into, so we can be
Gotcha.
there mentally. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today on organization. Again, as I said to you a little while ago, I'm consciously aware of my environment, and I'm going to go declutter.
I'm not perfect by any means on any of these levels, but I know that those are things that help
Yeah.
me out a lot.
Well, so good. Simply Said's resource, Todoist, I heard you say, has been a wonderful resource for you. Google Calendar, just living by a calendar can just help your life so much. I'm teaching my adult children that right now that are learning that.
Yeah.
But Amanda, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us, and thanks so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Eric.